Hey everyone, this is Vinny, and in this video I'm going to show you how to integrate builderall with Zapier using a webhook. Specifically, I've got this two-step checkout process from builderall here, where in the step 1 we collect the email address, the name and the delivery address, and in step 2 we make the actual payment. Now for this example, I wanted to get all this information from step 1 into my Google Sheets and from step 2 into another sheet in the same document. So here's an overview of what we're going to do in this tutorial. I'm just going to put an email address, a name and some address, and when I submit this form it should populate and there we have all the values from the form. And if I do a payment, let's say, and we'll just use a test card number, and now it should redirect us to the thank you page. Okay, and then if I come down to my payment sheet, this is updated now. So let's take a look at how we're going to do that. Now to get started, there are a few elements that we're going to use. Obviously we need a website on builderall, we need a Google Sheets document, we need Zapier, and we are also going to use Google Tag Manager. Now, when it comes to Zapier and Google Tag Manager, you do need at least a beginner level experience with them. If you don't, then there are various good videos on YouTube which you can check out. So why do we want to use Google Tag Manager? Well, there are two main reasons. The first one being it is a centralized location where you could deploy all the scripts onto your website, like Google Analytics, Facebook Pixel, Hotjar, event tracking, and much more from within Google Tag Manager. And the second reason being I couldn't find an option on builderall where I could put webhooks to get this first step information into Zapier. When it comes to step 2 of this checkout process, there is option to put webhooks into the backend in builderall. So that is a good thing. So we don't have to use Google Tag Manager for getting the data from step 2 of this checkout process. So let's get started. So this is my backend of builderall, where I have one layout and one home page and a thank you page. Now this checkout box is sitting on the home page, as you can see here, and we'll come into Google Tag Manager and sign into Google Tag Manager and create a new account here for our website. Now when we create an account with Google Tag Manager, it pops up a box asking us to put these two scripts into our website. Now the best way I've found how to go about doing this is when you come into the layout section, you have a settings button here, and when you scroll down there's an option to put the scripts here. So I'm just going to delete all of this and copy this, paste, and copy this and paste it here, and then confirm. So let's quickly save this, and once it is saved you can go back to your website and do a quick check. To do this, I've found that using this Google Tag Assistant on Chrome is really useful. So let's click on enable, and when I refresh this and go back to Google Tag Assistant, we see a couple of things. First of all, notice the Google Tag Manager code that we got up here matches the code that we got up here, and when you click on it, it gives us two warnings. The first one being that it's saying it can't detect any tags that are being fired within Google Tag Manager, which is all right. When we do go into Google Tag Manager and create some tags, that's going to disappear. But this particular warning that it's saying where it's not, it couldn't find JavaScript code as a direct child of head, I could not get rid of this within builderall website, mainly because when you look at the page source here and scroll all the way down, you can see Google Tag Manager is sitting at the end of the body tag. Now, one of the things that Google Tag Manager asks us to do is put them all up here within the head tag. So I haven't found a way to actually do this within builderall, but for our purposes, even having at the bottom of the page seems to work. So let's jump into Google Tag Manager. Now, if this is your first time within Google Tag Manager, then I urge you to look at some beginner tutorials on YouTube. But there are three main elements to Google Tag Manager to give you a quick overview. So the easiest to understand is the trigger, which basically means that it looks at your website, and whenever something specific happens, that is going to trigger other things within Google Tag Manager. So let's create a new trigger over here, and we'll call this form submit from homepage. And as you can see, you can look at various events that happen on your website, but for our case we have a form submission trigger over here. So let's select that, and by default it's going to track all the forms that we have on our website, but we just want this form on our homepage. Let's say that we have an upsell on our other pages which we don't want to use within this particular trigger. So for the home page, we'll just say page URL equals, and then go back to our home page, copy this and paste it here, and then click on save. So now when anytime a form is submitted on the home page, it is going to be recorded as a trigger within Google Tag Manager. Now where can we use this? So we can use this within tags. So let's create a new tag. Let's call this form data to Zapier for now. And for, you see, we have two elements here. One is for configuration and one is for triggering. And for the triggering bit, we are going to select our form submit from our home page. And for configuration, we'll just say it as a custom HTML for now, and then just open or close script tags and then click on save. So what this will do is whenever a form is submitted on our website, the trigger is going to trigger, and then based on that trigger we are going to execute this script. Now let's go back to our homepage and see how it's working. To do that, there's a really good feature within Google Tag Manager where we can click on preview, and then it essentially puts us in a debugging mode on our website. So it says now previewing workspace, and if I go back to my homepage and refresh, we have this debugging console up down on our website over here. So which has recognized that we have a new tag called form data to Zapier, and it says that tag has not fired yet, which is good because we haven't submitted this form. So once we do submit this form, we want it to change to tags that are fired on this page. So let's just give it a quick check. So as you can see, the form was submitted and the tag was fired over here. So if I just make this bigger, so the tag which was down here within not fired section has changed to tag that was fired up here. And we also have this new tab under the summary. So if I click on that and go into variables, now this is all the data that was sent back to Google Tag Manager when we clicked on submit the form. Now, as you can see here, we have no information about the name, address, or the email address that we just entered into a form. That is because we didn't explicitly say within Google Tag Manager as to what variables we wanted Google Tag Manager to have. So we'll do that next. So the next few bits I'm going to try to explain as best as I can, because it can be quite daunting if it's your first time doing all of this. So do bear with me. So like I said, we need variables with the values from our form that we want to send back to Google Tag Manager. And the way we do that is using the variables here. Now Google Tag Manager does come with built-in variables that you can click on configure and use them, but in our case we want to define new variables. So let's just call this homepage form email, and let's go back to our website to see how we can actually configure this. Now if you're using Chrome, go into more tools and developer tools, which will give us the console, and click on console here, where you can actually look at the data that Google Tag Manager has already for us. Now we do see here a data layer which has all this information. Let's just type in data layer, which has quite a few arrays. Let me just make this bigger. And the one that we are interested in is called GTM element. So we'll expand that out. And here we have the form element. So if I click on that, so here we have the inputs from our initial form. So let's just take a look at one of them. So if I expand 0 out, you can see all the variables. Now all this can be a bit confusing, but the one that we are actually interested in is called value, which is down here, which has our email address that we entered within our form. So let's just scroll back up and let's look at second one and scroll down, and we see a value over here which is quite confusing because we never input this within our form. So what's happening here? So we see there are 1 2 3 4 5 elements within our form, but if we go back to our form editor, we only have 3 elements. Now by default, the checkout forms within builderall come with password required. So if that was the case, then we would have email, first name, password, confirm password, and then the custom field that we have down here for delivery address. So if you go back to our website, so the first element is the email address, the second one is the username, that is the password and the confirm password, and the last element is the delivery address. So we can ignore these two in the middle. So if I expand that out again, so we have the value that we are interested in. Now how do we get that value back into Google Tag Manager? So the way we do that is, if I click on variable configure, so we have the data layer variable over here. Let's click on that, and here we're going to say gtm dot element, which is this particular entry within our array, and then we're going to say 0 for our first input field, and then we're going to say value. So we'll say dot 0 dot value, and that should be our email address. So let's just save that, and we're going to do the same for the other two variables. So let's just call this homepage form first name data layer variable. We'll say gtm dot element dot one dot value, and then create another one, homepage form address, call this data layer, and then gtm dot element dot 4 dot value. Now let's just confirm that 4 is our address. So if we look for the value, that is the address that we entered. So let's just save this and click on refresh, and we'll go back to our website and fill up the form and check out. So let's close our console here and then click on refresh. Now you can see builderall checkout boxes directly takes us to step 2 because it stores the step 1 information in the cookies, so we need to clear that. So we'll go into more tools and then do clear browsing data, and then we'll select the cookies and other site data and then click on clear data, and then go back to our home page and then refresh. Right, we're back to square one. Let's quickly give this a try. So again, we can see the form was submitted, and if we come down to our variables, we have the variables that we just defined, where in the address we have the address, we have the email address, and the first name. So the next step is setting up the webhook with Zapier, so we can send all this information from our Google Tag Manager into Zapier. So I've logged into Zapier now, and under integrations we have some default or predefined zaps. So among them we'll choose the webhook to Google Sheets, and then click on continue until we get the webhook. So now we have the webhook over here, which we are going to copy and then go back into our Google Tag Manager. So far what we've had is we have a home page, and the trigger on the home page is going to trigger when we click on the submit button, and then we have the tags here. So this tag is going to get triggered whenever a submission occurs on a home page form, and then this script is going to run when that happens. So this is where we're going to put the URL and then make that webhook call to Zapier. Now to actually do this, there is a bit of scripting involved. So there's a simple JavaScript that that I got, which I'll provide in the description, which we're going to copy and then paste in here. Now I'm going to talk you through what this actually is. So here we have the script opening and the close tag, and if you look down here, this is where the actual call to the webhook is happening. So we're using jQuery and we're passing the settings variable with an ajax call. Now in the settings variable, the most important bit we have is the URL over here. Now this is a URL from a previous test trial that I was working on. So we'll delete this and then copy this new webhook that we've got and then paste in here, and we are going to append some more information to the end of this variable. Start with a question mark, and we'll say email address equals open brackets, and then once we do that, we see all the variables that are available to us, including the custom variables that we created. So we'll click on email, and also we'll append first name. So now we have all the three elements that we want to pass to our webhook. Let's just click on save and then click on preview. So now we are in the debugging mode. Let's just double check Zapier is running. So the next step in Zapier is to actually make a call to this so that we get some data into Zapier, and then once we do that, we can click on OK, I did this. So we'll go back to our home page, refresh, and then let's test it out. Let's go back into Zapier and say, okay, I did this. So now it says test was successful. So let's click on continue. And so the webhook side of things is complete now. Now we have to configure the Google Sheets. Let's click on continue. And the test is successful. So my Google account is connected to Zapier. And then here we're going to specify the spreadsheet and the worksheet that we're going to use. Now we already have a Google Sheets document available here. So let's just select that. And within that we have worksheet. Now do bear in mind that if you have the header with all the name of the elements, then it's going to auto populate over here, but if you don't, then it's going to prompt you to put a header over here. So we have the email, so we'll click on this, and then we have the email, the name, and the address that was sent via our Google Tag Manager. And then let's click on continue, and then say send test, and then we can go and check that the data is available here. Click on finish. So this Zap is ready to go live, and we can go back to our Google Tag Manager and then leave preview mode. And for this to actually work on live website, you have to create a submission. Without that, it won't work. So we'll say, and then publish. So that was part one, where we have the shipping information from the step one of the two-step checkout process sent into Zapier and into our document. Now for the second part, where we want to get the purchase data from the step two of our checkout into our Google document, it's quite easy. So we'll go back into our HTML editor and then go into offer manager and then edit our offer. So here we have an option to put a webhook. So we'll go back into Zapier and then create another Zap. And we've got the webhook here, which we're going to copy. Go back to our editor, paste it in here, say next, save. One other thing that we have to do in builderall is go to alt offer, so everything's updated. Click on confirm and then save. Now we'll go back into Zapier to review our final step. So before we click on this button, remember we have to do an actual webhook call first. So we'll go to our home page and then do a test. And let's do a test payment. So now we can go back to Zapier and double check. So it says test successful. We can click on continue. We'll select our spreadsheet. And the worksheet that we're working on is actually sheet number 2, which is payments. And then again, because we had specified the header within our Google Sheet, it will populate it automatically. Now we just have to select the data that we want to associate with that particular field. So as you can see, this is all the purchase data that we get back from builderall after the payment is successful. And we have the email address here. And to see if the payment was successful, we'll make a test call. And the sheet is populated now. So we can finish and save this zap. So there we have it. Google Sheets populated with the information from our checkout process. Now we can use this information to make some automated emails with a mailing boss or Drip or Klaviyo, any other services that you prefer. So that was it, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you.